Guys, gals, and pals, welcome back to Paint and Talk episode 30. That is so insane to say. Also insane because this is my second take of episode 30, and you would think by now I would have it down enough that I didn't need to do a second take, but that's why there's a little bit of paint on this canvas. Anyways, being that we're at episode 30, I hope you had the most amazing day of your life yesterday, better than anyone before that, which is crazy because like 30 isn't even that much, you know what I mean? Like, by the time we're like into this, it's good. Like we're gonna go to like 100, then 200. But being that we're here at 30 and about to cross the mark of like 1 month painting every day, we're a day away from that, right? I wanted to kind of like, not do like a check-in, but almost do an episode talking about, you know, some things with Paint&Talk that I maybe should have addressed before, but didn't, you know what I mean? Some of them I didn't address because I just didn't really foresee them being topics of conversation at all, or think about them. Some of them I didn't have an answer to before, but now I feel I have something of an answer to them. Maybe not all the way, but you know, better than what I was at before for sure. And I think the first one there that I want to just like get out of the way is, so that beginning segment that I do, where I go, guys, gals, and pals, this is probably gonna be the last time I'm doing that, for a while at least. I'm kind of, as I've said multiple times, with this series, I'm really trying hard to lean into the whole like, very, you know, casual YouTube. I want to do this very like, you know, if you like this, you're here to watch it, but I don't want it to be this, I don't even want it to feel like a series. I want it to feel like just a conversation. That's what it's always been meant to be. And I feel like having that intro is starting to like, I don't know. I think also an element of this too is just like very direct like intuition of like when I click on these, when I watch them back personally, I cringe watching that happens, like the first statement, because I just don't like it. And that's definitely an element of this too, you know what I mean? Partially I don't love this, that I start these like this, and partially I do think that there's like a certain utility to starting these just like, I've been thinking about this topic lately and let's discuss it, you know? There's an element to this too that admittedly has to do with like growth and is branding the word? Not branding, but like, you know, accessibility. That's, I think, how I would put it, right? Because if you're coming here for the first time interested in a topic and you hear me start it off with like, welcome back to Paint and Talk episode 31 or 50, or as far as we're gonna get into this, it could be a little bit like, oh, maybe I should not check this out. Maybe I should start at episode 1, or maybe I should not be. Like, it feels like it's more daunting than it is, you know what I mean? So there's certain utility to that too. Also, everyone's gonna understand the series the second that they see an upload the next day, or click on the channel, you know? So that's part of the reason why I wanna stop doing that. Also, a friend did just advise me that it might be a good idea to try it. And I'm always one to take people's advice, especially when there's someone who, this friend in particular, I don't know if he would wanna shout out, so I won't do it, but he's been in the content creation space for, like 5 years doing it well, and I think he said he's had multiple channels before that, so I mean, you know, he's someone whose voice I definitely trust, and I want to try out the advice he gives me. So that's why I'm trying this, you know? But yeah, I just want to like say that because it's kind of like the intro at this point, but also like it's the intro for 30 episodes, so it's not really, like 30 is a lot, but it's also not a lot, you know what I mean? The second big question that like I just didn't even think about when I started this series is, what am I doing with these canvases at the end of the year? Got a comment about this, and to be completely honest with you, the answer is still, I don't know. I think that there's a solid chance that I do like a giveaway of a lot of them. I definitely want to keep some of them for sure. I mean, you know, I think that makes enough sense. I do want to keep some of these. That's part of it. So that's definitely gonna happen, but outside of that, I really don't have too many ideas for them. I wouldn't mind doing something of like a giveaway, you know, there's people that have come from Paint and Talk that commonly like DM me on Instagram and I talk to them and things like that. So like maybe those people who I know have been here for a long time, I would totally love to give them a canvas or two. You know, I know some of you comment a lot, and I unfortunately still have not gotten around to responding to them, which is gonna change very soon. I always promise that, and I feel like it's getting like ridiculous at this point, but you know, that's besides the point. I would love to give you guys canvases. If you have been here for a long time commenting and like from the beginning, you know, because some of you really have been here since episode 1, which is crazy because like, you know, I think Paint and Talk was watchable from the start. Like, I think that if you go back to episode 1, is it the best? No, but is it watchable? Yeah, I mean, you can get through it, you know what I mean? But it's definitely still even not where I wanted to be in the end. So like, for you guys to be here from episode 1 and continue supporting the show, watching, it does mean a lot. So I'd love to give you guys a canvas or two if you guys have a favorite that I haven't, given away. I do also, full clarity, give away a lot of these to family and friends. Like if, they like one that they see when they're just like talking to me, sometimes I'll show them one. If they're following me on Instagram too, they'll see them. And I've given canvases to people just like in my personal life. I think that's fun. Like I just, like doing that. So yeah, they're kind of gonna go everywhere. I'm gonna keep a lot of them, maybe do a giveaway. If there's enough interest, and I don't wanna overcommit to this because I don't even know the logistics of it. I don't know how I could do it or if I could do it. But if there's enough interest in this series by the end of the year where people would be willing to pay money for them, I would love to do an auction and donate the proceeds to charity. I think that'd be really cool. Or at least a large percentage of the proceeds, you know what I mean? I don't know what it costs to like run that sort of thing, but I would love to do that. If that's really plausible or like in the cards, which is why I feel weird even mentioning it, just on the off chance that can't really happen, but I'd love to try something like that, So yeah, I think overall there's a lot of directions I could go with what I'm going to do with all these at the end of the year. I don't have a definite answer though. So, I mean, if you guys have other ideas, that'd be cool. I would also, there's going to be so many of these. That's the thing, you know what I mean? I'm thinking of taking some massive walls and just like making the canvases into a set for videos. I think that could be a lot of fun too. And also like going forward, whether, because I think that would take like 50 of these canvases, So going forward, if you watch my other videos, you would see the canvases in the background, kind of like remembering the journey in a way. I think that could be something fun and cool too. So there's a lot of things I could do with it. But, just gonna have to wait and see, I guess. Maybe by the time I get to 365, I'll just be the most greedy person on earth and just sell them all on eBay auctions and like try and use bots to inflate the price and just take all the money and stop uploading after that. I think that's also just a real possibility that not only am I considering, but I'm hoping I can do, So yeah, it could really go any direction is the point of this. The other question though that I've always wanted to answer from the beginning, I was very close to it, actually not even close, I did discuss it in the first Paint and Talk ever, but it was in like the first draft of it. I recorded that first episode twice, by the way, or maybe it was even 3 times. I recorded it a bunch though, because I didn't love how it came out. And then in one of them, the audio messed up. And the first one, though, where I didn't love how it came out, it was because I dove into this topic that I didn't have an answer to yet, but I thought was important to answer. And that's like, okay, so I've set out on this, right? I've been painting every day. I've been talking every day. I'm sure you know that it's kind of unfortunate, the talking part, but the painting part's been going pretty good so far. I've definitely improved, And I want to ask the question, as I've set out to do this, as I've stated at the beginning of this, my goal is to get better at painting. What does that mean? Like, if I have said on record, I want to be a good painter at the end of 2025, right? What does that look like? You know what I mean? Because, to put it like in its simplest terms, Picasso was a great painter. Da Vinci was a great painter. All these guys are great painters with vastly different styles. So what does it look like to be a great painter by the end of 2025? And this is obviously a personal question. I know a lot of people will probably say, you need to learn how to paint very realistically, or you're not a great painter. I think that's a very common traditional answer to this question. I think that that's also an element to this that I can't ignore. I do want to learn a degree of technical skill this year. I think that's, part of it for sure, which I'm already, but when I say technical skill, I don't mean more so like mastering human anatomy. One, I understand that that's a fairly large goal. Like I can't do that really without like very directly studying. That's not something that's the most attainable. I want to get better with like depicting anatomy in paintings, but to say I want to be able to paint photorealistic paintings, maybe by the end of 2026 or 2027 if we continue this into those years. For now though, I don't think that's going to happen. I want to paint better paintings, as honestly, so far, I gotta knock on wood as I say this, this painting is more realistic than yesterday's, and I think that's cool. You know what I mean? I think there's some improvement you can see in even the little things like that, right? But so I think an element of it is to get better at painting something realistically, right? I would also say an element of it, though, is developing my own style, and I think that's my ultimate answer to this question. Like, if you ask me, you want to be good at painting, what does that mean? I would say, to me, good at painting means find my own voice in these paintings. You know what I mean? That's kind of my goal. If that style, and I think, so my general philosophy around a lot of art, and this isn't something that I would ever throw into a more, official video, would that be the word? I wouldn't throw it into an official video because this is a very unfounded philosophy. It's just something that I think of in my own personal art as I make stuff like this, right? My general philosophy is that, like, what you should do is you should find an idea and you should bring it to its logical conclusion. You should keep working on that thing until it's potent and can be done very well and is good. That's what I think great art looks like, that's why I think, like, Picasso's Cubist era is so good, because he put so much time into developing that, you know? And listen, is this how all great art happens? No, not by any means. There are lots of artists who have just tried something willy-nilly and ended up lucking their way, or not even lucking, maybe it was some, something more there. They got their way into a very brilliant style or thing right off the bat. And that happens, that for sure happens. That's not happening with me, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how I'm going to do this, because, well, I think that'd be a little weird to come here and paint every day and go, like, maybe today will be the day we discover this brilliant style. What I want to do is, I think there's already remnants of the things I like in how I paint, and I want to, over this year, develop that into a genuine thing. I want to have my own style by the end of this year of, like, I depict these ideas in this style. And that, I think, is what I mean when I say I want to be a good painter. I do want to improve in technical skill, because I think technical skill will help me execute upon this style that I want to make in the end, which I don't even know what the style looks like, but I think gaining some semblance of technical skill would help me a lot with that. I also think, though, that like, I just want to find my own voice in the paintings, Like, I want technical skill to the extent of where it can help me, but I want to just be able to find my voice. And, it's almost like you can't find your voice in speaking if you don't have a good vocabulary. I want to build a good vocabulary. Maybe I'll go on a segment of these. Well, this is something I plan on doing, actually, which is kind of another topic here that I was going to get into, but it goes along with this somewhat well, is this idea of, like, I want to go on kind of arcs within Paint&Talk, right? So this was inspired by the last couple Paint&Talks. I've been making eyes, right? And that's because I accidentally, as I said yesterday too, poured way too much paint of these two colors, and I want to use it up. I don't want to waste paint, because we're balling on a budget here on Paint&Talk, right? So that's why this is happening. But I realized, the eyes have directly gotten better since day one, or day one of this. I'm on day 4 now of it, but the eyes have just straight up improved because I'm painting the same thing every day. I'm getting better at painting this thing, right? So I do want to do this with, like, other things. Like, one thing I would love to do is maybe around October, Halloween time. I'm thinking very far into the future here. It's only January as I record this, but, I would love to do maybe something spooky themed, maybe 30 dark paintings and dive into that style. And then maybe on a more functional level, we'll do certain styles of, like, okay, I'm going to try and paint in a cubist style the next 50 days or whatever. 50 would be a lot, I'd get bored. But, the next X number of days, we're going to paint in this style. We're going to try this thing, and I think that is good. I think it's really funny, too, that, like, somewhat this has started with eyes. I mean, not somewhat, it has. Like, this is the first stylistic or conceptual arc I'm going on here, and, oh, we need a cool name for them. We definitely need a cool name for them. But, I do want to, I just started that sentence, I didn't know where I was going with it, but I think it's funny, though, that I did start with eyes here, because when I was a kid and I was learning to draw, I started with eyes. Eyes were the first thing. I locked myself in my room one day and I said, I'm going to keep drawing until I have the perfect eye. And listen, I'm not going to do that now because I don't want to give you guys 100 paint and talks of eyes. Drawing an eye takes about 5 minutes if you're doing it fast enough. Painting one of these has taken 30. So I think it'd get a little boring if I do more than like 1 or 2 more eyes, But experimenting with style is going to be a great thing. It's something I really want to do. And it's almost like back to the analogy of like you can't find your voice in public speaking or your style of speaking unless you have a great vocabulary. I want to build my vocabulary. I want to be like, okay, I know how to shade something fairly realistically. Okay, I have enough brush control to depict a human form here. Okay, I have done the cubist thing for a minute. I did the pop thing for a minute. I know how to get really stark, clean lines. And then, I'd love to do a Rothko kind of thing, which I think I already kind of attempted with a couple paintings, but I'd love to go on like, and we need a name for these, maybe like concept arc. Concept arc sounds really cool. But yeah, I'd love to go on like, okay, we'll go on a Rothko arc now. We'll see if I can master that painting style, or not master, but get proficient at what they're doing there. Copying is how you learn, is like the big thing I've been told. And that's true in a lot of instances, but we see it almost as like, and maybe if you go to like a big art school, this is different. I don't know, I've never been to art school, but I know that a lot of the time, like when they say copy, they mean like just copy the Renaissance stuff, like copy realistic stuff until you have that down. But I feel like we're at a point now in art where we have so much more than that. You know what I mean? Picasso came along and mastered another style. Rothko did something amazing with that. I think, people will debate in every which direction, but I think Warhol did amazing stuff when he experimented with pop in that way. We have so much more art that has come out that's amazing by now. So much. And we haven't yet, like now, and we're still kind of trying to learn off the old fundamentals. I would love to try and like, not become fluent in all of these, but learn a little bit of everything. That way I could develop my own style in the most honest way possible. That's my big, going back to what I was saying about like how I think art works, that's how I think it works. I think you need to find a style, and I think you need to develop it and have the skills to make it as honest as humanly possible until it's fully you. And that's what success looks like to me this year. That took a very long time to get out, but that is what success looks like to me this year. And I feel like it's going to be such a fun thing to do on camera because it is like a really hard, strange process. And that's why I'd love to document this. I think this could genuinely be something that's like very helpful to, and I'm not trying to just like, I'm kind of just gassing myself up saying this. I think if this series gets executed well, if I'm like actually solid at painting by the end of the year, maybe not the best. I mean, painting is something people practice for 10,000 plus hours before they are considered to be good. You know what I mean? So if I get better at painting this year and really do something interesting with this though, I think this could genuinely be such a cool series because like developing an artistic style is, or just becoming good at any sort of art is such a like awful thing to go through. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a great thing to go through, but like as an artist, if you're not like I've gone through it 2 or 3 times in my life now of like different mediums and trying to develop this like style, right? And the first time you do it, it's so, and for me it was drawing as a kid because that's where I started all this. It's so like, it's just very, you don't know where you're going and you always feel like you're going in the wrong direction. Or at least that's how I felt. Maybe other people have a much easier time with this. I always felt like I was going the wrong direction no matter what I was doing. I felt like I just like had no, like at points it makes you, for me at least what happened is I took all this time to learn the fundamentals and learn how to draw realistically. And then I was like, okay, now I need to find my own voice in this. And like, it's like, I feel like I did everything wrong the whole time. And then you start getting, or I feel like I keep saying I started getting my head about it, where I was like, maybe like I've spent all this time into drawing and I can only draw in the same way as everyone else right now. I can only do realistic drawings. And like, that's like an awful place to be at. The second time I understood a little bit more of like, no, I just got to keep pushing with this until I find something genuinely like interesting in here. That was my videos where I over the last year, in 2024 mainly, developed from like this like basic style that I used to use into like the new style I have now. and it's constantly developing, but I understood like, oh no, I just need to really sort of like trust this process that I'm gonna have a miss every now and again, commonly have a miss, but I'm gonna get way better at this. I luckily also will say that like on the Max Dice channel, where I'm gonna guess some of you are coming from, I started that channel. This is like my newest channel. I've been doing YouTube for so long. So I was coming into it with some skills that I already had. So like the first videos, people still enjoyed, even though I don't think they're very good. Oh, so what I'm doing, by the way, on this eye, so I've realized that the eye is kind of where I've messed these up the last couple of days. I mainly want to focus on the skin here today. That's why I also didn't do an eyebrow, because I don't want to mess anything up with the skin. I just want to focus on that today. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of do like an abstract-ish design for this eye and try and get something kind of neat out of it. And this is actually like a good example of something I'd love to be able to do well. Like, what if I could be like, I'm going to paint this skin very realistically and do an abstract Rothko within this eye? That would be such a cool thing to be able to do. And that's what I mean when I say, you got to learn, like, I want to become fluent in all these languages so I can make the cool stuff I want to make. But, you know, developing a style, if you don't know where you're going or if you're doing it for the first time, it's the worst thing in the world because you put so much time into going into dead ends. And then only once, and I don't even think this has happened with me in my videos or in my drawings. I think this is going to be something that hopefully happens before I die. You know, it's something that takes so long, is you eventually come out on like a horizon. You're like, oh, all those dead ends were worth something. I learned something every time I went down a dead end, and I came out with this new thing that I think is actually really cool. And that's like why you do it, you know? And I mean, it comes easier for some people than others, but it happens in everything in life, right? I mean, how we dress is a style. And that's something that for a lot of people, I know for me, it like takes so long. And you put on so many outfits that don't feel like you before you start to get comfortable in your own skin. And that's how it feels when you're trying to develop any sort of artistic style too. I feel like I'm sort of rehashing from that episode where I talked about how to develop an artistic style now, but I also don't remember that episode or what I said in it. So that's that. So sorry if I am from repeating myself here, but you know, that's where I think this series could be so cool, because like if I can come up with something half decent by the end of this year or by the end of next year or however long I end up doing this, I know I'm going to do all of this year. Next year, I don't know, I feel like right now in where I'm sitting, literally, but like in where I'm sitting in this series, I feel like I love it so much that I do foresee myself doing this for multiple years. Or like I can't see me not wanting to do this. After I do it 365 days in a row, will that change? Very possibly. I think there's a huge, like, you know, what I'm doing is awesome because I really like it and I think it's a neat idea. I mean, that's why I'm doing it. But what I'm doing is also probably the fastest way to hate something, is by doing it like this. So I do understand that like by the end of this year, I could not want to continue it, but in some capacity, I plan on continuing this. And hopefully, if I can develop something half decent by the end of, you know, the year, 2 years, whatever it ends up being, I can come out and like be like, oh, look, you could watch or even just go to the Instagram and see all these paintings one after another of me coming out with a bad thing and then another bad thing. But you can see an element of that bad thing and this good thing I did two weeks later, you know? I'd love to be able to do that eventually if I could get good enough at developing a style, because I think that'd be one of the coolest things ever, is just to like that is the definition of what young me would want as he's developing into like learning to draw or learning to do anything if you want to look at abstract enough, you know? I would love that, and that's why I really want to try and do something akin to that. Maybe not that exactly, but I want to try. You know, I really want to attempt to do it. It's going to be hard to execute, but I want to try. And I think that's something that's so interesting that people also talk about, is like they say like in your art, you should try and do whatever like your younger self would want to do. Virgil Abloh has that speech he gave where he was like, I do everything for the 17-year-old version of myself. And I think that's so interesting because like, I've been thinking about that a lot. This is kind of why, and I don't know if I mentioned it in that episode, I think I did, or that's kind of why I made that episode on romanticizing the past, because I've been thinking about the past a lot. I'm getting to that age where I'm looking around at all my friends, some of whom I've known for a year or two, some of whom I've known for, 10 years at this point. Not 10 years, right? No, I don't think I've known anyone in my life for 10 years. But these friends who I've known for a long time, I'm getting to that age where I'm really looking at them and like going like, oh wow, like how, like we went from kids to this. Like it feels like everyone grew up in the last year or so, and that's really caused me to take a look back at my artistic development of like, how did I get here? Like how am I sitting in the position I am now? Like something, there's an incongruency almost, you know what I mean? And like, I was making those really bad things when I was 13, and then I was making those really, the worst things when I was 15, and like, it almost feels like in some ways, I've practiced significantly less some parts of like life in the last year, right? I mean artistically, not like life-wise, but like artistically, I've practiced things such as I'm trying to think here. I'd say Photoshop is one of the ones I've developed a lot less over the last year or so, right? Just the program Photoshop in general, not graphic design. But Photoshop in general, I've like developed over the last year, or developed like less over the last year than any other year. But now I'm coming back to it, this program that I haven't used frequently since I was like in my teens. And I'm like making things that are better than before. And it's like, where did this happen? You know what I mean? And now I'm making these things where I'm like, I know I like this and I can pinpoint that this is coming from somewhere. You know what I mean? It almost feels like something I saw years ago and I don't know where it's coming from. And that's where like, I think it's so interesting that like people say that art is just you making things that the younger version of yourself would enjoy. Because sometimes it really feels like that's true, even though I can't put my finger on it, Sometimes it really feels like, wow, this is totally the natural endpoint of what I wanted to do when I was 10 years old. Sometimes I look at the way I dress, and I'm like, this is exactly what the Ninth Doctor would have worn in Doctor Who, and I loved that series as a kid. And that's so interesting that now I'm like subconsciously putting things out that I took in so long ago, I'd love to, who's that other artist that has that? Is it Rick Rubin that says like, there are seeds of like, you get like a hint of an idea and you need to expand upon that. Like all these things are they feel so crucial to developing like art and stuff like that, but they're so hidden. I'd love to do something, and I might do this honestly. So I journal every day. I've mentioned a lot here. I love talking about my journal because it's like the only thing in life I'm good at. And I would love to do like journal my entire life, like try and like just start of like my earliest memories when I was 3 years old and just start from there and journal years of my life, because I think maybe in that I could discover some of those things about myself that I get glimpses of every now and again, but don't know well enough. Art's like a huge avenue of self-development. I mean, I've probably exhaustively talked, oh my God, I almost just dropped that brush on myself. That would have been crazy. But I've talked about this to other people, but I don't think I ever talked about it like here. Is that like, I feel like art is so, back to self-improvement, which we were talking about 2 days ago, or 3 days ago rather, like I feel like you can develop just as much painting something or creating something you think is awesome as you can doing anything really that is seen as like traditionally improving upon yourself, If you read a book and get smarter, I think you can develop just as much from sitting in your room working on a piece of art that you love for weeks straight, Like art has this weird capability to reflect back onto us and develop us in ways that we would never really expect. And that's why I love the field so much and continue to do it so much. Like I've gone on vacations where I'm like, I developed less during that vacation than trying to finish that one art project. Like not vacations, but like, when you like go away and like you see a new part of the world. I've done that and I've been like, I learned more about myself writing this book that I wanted to write, and I did. And this isn't to say that I love the vacation too. I don't know why I'm running defense for the vacation now, but it's just to say like you can really learn so much in art and developing through it. Anyways, though, this is the painting. I believe, I don't know if this is 100% right, but this might be a little bit of a shorter episode in comparison to the other ones. I kind of lost track of the time midway through. This might be like 25 instead of 30, but either way, this is the painting. Okay, so I thought this was coming out really good for like half of the episode. So the eye shape is weird, but like not like terrible. It just isn't almond enough. It kind of cuts off here, which like some eyes do that, so that's not the worst. Where it really went wrong, I didn't do an eyebrow, which I think I mentioned earlier, because I didn't want to paint around it and get cruddy. But where I think I really went wrong is I tried to bridge the gap between the center and the top right here, and it really smudged some of the blue into there and created sort of a green. But overall, this is better. The blending is better than anything I've done before, I think. So I'll call this a win. I think we've improved. As I'm trying to kind of paint realistically here with these eyes a little bit, which I guess yesterday's wasn't as realistic. I was trying to go a different direction with that one. But either way, trying to do these eyes. So outside of that, oh my God. Outside of that, you guys know the drill. Go check this out over on the Instagram and follow the Instagram for updates on things going on. It almost got banned the other day, so it's good to have for that reason, so I can throw something up on the story in case something else is going on somewhere else. So check out that, follow me on Instagram, and until tomorrow, paint something. Yeah, just paint something, I guess, yeah.